Hey everybody, Dave Lerner, Venture Studio. It's my pleasure to have the CEO of Comixology, David Steinberger here. David, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
The word is Comixology is basically taking over the comic book space on the iPad and elsewhere. Tell us a little about what kind of numbers and traction you're getting.
It's been a pretty incredible ride. Like we really achieved one of our main goals, which was to kind of help move comics into digital when DC decided to go day and date with all their print comics in September. So in September, starting actually a week before September with our 3.0 release, the Comics by Comixology app has been the top grossing iPad app in the entire iTunes store 1 or 2 days a week, every week. So Wednesday's new comic book day, by Wednesday afternoon we're number 1, usually through Thursday, this past week even through Friday morning. So it's just really been incredible to see comics, because nobody expects comics, right? Nobody likes comics except, punk kids. Then on top of it, we've got the Android Kindle Fire. We're preloaded on there. So between those two things, it's just been an incredible couple months for us.
You guys came out of nowhere, it seems. You're a first-time entrepreneur. There are lots of first-time entrepreneurs watching the show. How the hell did you do this?
We did a business plan competition at NYU Stern. That's like a 6-month process. That was an incredible help. We had mentors through every stage. If you stick in it, right, if you keep getting to the next stage, you get to meet all sorts of people, lawyers, presentation specialists, business plan specialists.
Tell us about, the impact of meeting the market.
Well, first of all, we learned through the process, and we got to do this great competition in San Diego State. Michael Cunningham, who's an alum of NYU, had us down there a couple of months before the NYU competition. And we got destroyed there. I mean, it was awful. It seemed like a really bad experience at the time. Having such a, we got through one round, I think, and then seeing the people who won and really paying attention to their presentations and seeing how they answered the questions from the judges, which were all VC guys, was really instructive.
That early, let's call it what it was, embarrassment really is something that you learn from and you appreciate.
Yeah, it was incredibly helpful. And one of the things that we tried to keep in mind, and we'd heard a few times, was that a successful business plan could be the one that tells you not to do the business, right?
Right.
So we tried to keep that in mind the entire time, and that to take in the rejection and the criticisms wholeheartedly.
What was your first product?
First product was actually a thing called a pull list, which in comic book parlance is, all right, so comic book people go and shop at their comic book stores on Wednesday. It's the only way you can get those 22-page floppies, right? It's called the direct market. It's a very odd market. But you can't go to Barnes & Noble and pick up a floppy, a comic book. You can go and get collections of comic books. So if you want to stay up to date on comic books, you have to find a store, which may not be near you, and get there every Wednesday. Retailers on top of that have to buy their books. They can't send them back like bookstores if they're not sold. So you have to actually pre-order months ahead of time all their inventory for whatever Wednesday it is.
Hence the opportunity.
Great opportunity, right? They have a really big margin, 50 to 60% depending on how big the store is. And they give some of that margin away to their customers to pre-order, make these pull lists. So the comics come to the store on Wednesday, they pull them out and they put them aside. There was just nothing on the internet for helping people track what was arriving at the stores, what should be arriving at the stores, or for creating these virtual pull lists. So that's where we saw an opportunity.
What did you do technologically to be able to integrate comics into an iPad, let's say?
In a nutshell, we created a way for you to automatically tap through each panel as if your eye or the phone was your eye. So it like pans across the page. It's landscape and portrait aware, so it's orientation aware.
So you cracked the technological challenge, but I also understand you cut deals with DC and Marvel at some point. How did you get there?
That's a good one, because in our business plan, when we had investment, we had 2 financial models. Model 1 was what we thought we'd do. Model 2 was if Marvel or DC joined us. Right. So in other words, we were telling investors, don't count on this. We think there's a really interesting and incredible market even without Marvel and DC, because the distribution is so weird and we think there's lots of expansion opportunities.
By the way, this sounds like the greatest business plan ever written.
Strategically, I think we did something good, right? We took the time to understand where the market was and that you couldn't just plow digital into it.
A lot of the folks watching, first-time entrepreneurs like you, they're dealing with big brands. Marvel and DC own your space. How did you actually cut deals with them?
We had prepared ourselves and put ourselves in a position in the industry where we were making publishers more money in print because of the pull list tools. And so we were a known entity. Everybody sees it as a huge pivot. Oh my God, Comixology just released a digital comics app. It seemed really crazy to everybody because we were news and PR and what was coming out in print.
Right.
But it really put us in a position to be talking to these guys very, very early on.
How are you really going to be changing the game here in the comic book industry?
Well, I think we already have in some ways. We've taken a product that had limited distribution and we allow anyone who has a browser, an iOS device, or an Android device use it, right? So you don't have to have, there's very low barrier of entry to buying a comic now. You don't have to find a shop, you don't have to get in there. The stock, we have 16,000 titles, so there's a huge amount of stock. We never run out. So all those things are really, really big.
All right, so are you guys hiring?
Yeah, I have a couple of marketing positions, a couple of coding positions, some senior mobile positions. That's all at comixology.com/jobs. So that's where you should look to see what's open right now. All sorts of stuff.
David, it's a real pleasure to have you here. It's great to meet you. Wish you continued success. Thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it.
Venture Studio in association with Mashable is brought to you by Square One Bank.